Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. I'm Roxy and today I will try a technique I'm sure lots of you have already seen around the internet, but my main inspiration was an artist from Instagram whose handle I'm not really sure how to pronounce, but I will try to spell it. You can find her as 0073.uv. She's extremely talented and at some point she made these illustrations with cutout elements which looked so good photographed outside. Unfortunately, due to the times we're living, I did not risk going outside just to photograph my work, so you can find a video on my Instagram in which I have used some of my old photographs as a background. So I started by making some sketches in my sketchbook, trying to figure out which pose was better. I did not draw mermaids in so long that now they seem so weird and hard to make them work. After I have chosen my pose, I cut some paper to my desired dimensions. The first one was too small, so I cut another one, figuring out it will be awfully hard cutting out scales so small. I then started drawing my mermaid and, if it wasn't challenging enough to draw mermaids after so much time, I tried doing it without reference. I am not entirely satisfied with the result, but it is better than I expected. I am going back and forth, drawing and erasing and drawing again, thinking at this moment that I should have done this on a piece of printer paper and then transferring it on my final support as I usually do, but it was already too late, so I went on like this. I had a bit of a struggle with the face too, as I really like this kind of pose, but I almost always get it wrong. After drawing the hair and some other tweaks, I decided that it is finally time for some reference, so I looked for some goldfish pictures to get the tail right. Drawing realistic for so long got me having the feeling that the mermaids can be realistic, so I really did not see a way of drawing those fantasy elements until I have figured out the mermaid's tail is, after all, a fish tail, and finally I was happy with how it looked. I was still really annoyed with the face, and at this point I was again looking for references. As I broke the no reference rule for the tail, I went forward and did it for the face too, until I got to a more favorable result. Next step was using my fineliner markers from Faber-Castell in 0.5 and 0.1 for putting down the, you guessed it, line art. I have used the 0.5 for the entire body and I think also for the hair, but I don't remember exactly. The 0.1 was used for the face. You can't really see what I'm doing here because of the way I was holding my hand and the fact that it was really detailed work. Imagine if I had gone with a smaller piece of paper. At this step, the hair was the problematic one, but even if the texture was not really on my liking, the construction, the way it looked like she was really grabbing it together, was exactly how I wanted. Now I was ready to erase the pencil marks and proceeded with some shadows. The point where I needed to start working on the scales was really close, so I was gathering all my courage for something I have never done before. As a guidance, I used some lines in pencil. Later, I figured out that they should have been oriented on the length of the tail, not transversal, but I still managed to do what I wanted. Then I went on with the tedious part of drawing the scales. The challenge was to make them go with the bending of the tail, as the pattern needed to change its direction in the knee area of the tail. All those scales were supposed to be cut out later. I figured out that I could make some cutouts on the tail fin too, and I also did some fish scales as her bra, hoping they were not too small to cut. Using an X-acto knife, I proceeded to cut them, and as I don't have much to say about this part and I want to spare you from watching 5 minutes of tedious cutting, I sped it up even more. Anyway, you're still having a minute of watching this. After about an hour and a half of cutting, I was ready and happier than ever. Only one last thing was missing. The background was blank, so I decided to go with some algae. Once again, I did something new and, without any realistic reference, I just looked up for some algae doodles and figured out my own. Again, doodling is not really something I am good at, as most people around encouraged me since my childhood to make my drawings look more like the real thing. So I am now having a hard time making stylized drawings. This is why I took this work as an opportunity to do things I am not usually doing. The process for this part was the same as before. I did a sketch in pencil, then I lined it with my 0.1 fineliner, also adding some texture on one type of algae. This was followed by the erasing of the pencil, and finally it was finished. I signed it, and the next thing I did was taking it on the balcony and watching the world through the mermaid's tail. So you can see the final result. I have used one of my scarves as a background, but it really does not make it any justice. I can't wait for this all to be over so I can get my mermaid out for a walk. In the meantime, I am enjoying this year's Mermay. For who doesn't know, Mermay is an annual challenge during which you have to draw mermaids. How often you draw them is really your choice. I would have loved to do them every day, but the situation does not let me do that. Anyway, I plan on at least 2 more mermaid works, both inspired by artists I am following. Once again, go on Instagram and check 0073.uv's art, and don't forget to pay my profile a visit. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!